This video continues our look at Adobe Camera Raw, the shooting and manipulating of raw images. And the subject here is the Save Image command. Down at the bottom left of the Adobe Camera Raw window we have a Save Image option. But when we hover over the button, the tooltip pops up and says Convert and Save Image, or you can hit the Alt key and save. This is one of those options that could have a number of different uses depending on your projects and your personal choices. So let's go through what this option offers, and you can decide if it has a place in your own workflow. You may decide that every raw file you edit, you want it copied and saved to a different location to the original, even retaining the raw format. You could be preparing images for a slideshow presentation and you may need a JPEG format. The save formats available via this option are DNG, TIFF, JPEG and Photoshop. Only the DNG, digital negative, will retain the raw status of your image. So once you've saved your image in DNG format, you can open the image up from that new location into Adobe Camera Raw and continue raw editing from where you left off. So let's say that I've completed the editing I want to do in Adobe Camera Raw, and I'm going to click the Save Image to bring up the dialog. The good thing about this option is the settings we're about to apply here will remain here until we decide to change them. And one of the other options we have is the ability to make presets right at the top. I'm going to save a completely new preset here, so I'm going to go to the drop down option and select to create a new one. Straight away I get a choice of a name, so I'll just call this BB's 2018 Raw. So that's the preset name, and I'll click OK. I'm not going to save it in the same location. If I leave this, this will be saved into the same location as the folder it was opened from. I want a different location, so I'm going to save in a new location, and straight away I'm offered the chance to browse for it. Now I've put this on my photography drive. That's what I created, finished raw images, and inside that I've got one for 2018, so I'll just select that as the place I want to save them and select. And now we can move on to naming the file. Now as you can see, the naming is very comprehensive. We've got 4 different options we can tack on to each other here, and there's the same number of options within each of these drop down boxes. So in the first one I'm going to stay with the document name, but in the second one I'll keep things simple, and let's just say we want a 3-digit serial number. And up here we get to see the new file name. So it's the document name, which was those numbers up until 75, and the 001 is picked up from here. We can choose when we start the numbering, and number 1 would seem logical. And the last option here is just whether the file extension is going to be uppercase or lowercase. I don't think I've got any preference there at all, so I can just move on now to Format just below. Now this is where we do get to select the Save option from one of those, digital negative, JPEG, TIFF and Photoshop. I'm going to stay with the digital negative. I doubt many of us are going to worry too much about compatibility. We're going to want to save in the latest Camera Raw and later ones to come. JPEG previews, I'm quite happy with that. And if we look into the next 3 boxes, I don't feel any need to change those. Do I want to embed fast load data? No. Do I want to use a lossy compression? No. And do I want to embed the original raw file? No, I don't need that either. You'll notice everything below is grayed out, and that's because at the moment we've got the digital negative format selected. So just for a moment, what I'm going to do is go up to the top right. We'll come back and look at the options down below in a moment, but for now I'm going to click Save. Now what that save has done has not only saved that preset, of course, but it's also saved this image into the folder of our choice. So what I can do now is just close this down. I'm going to close it and I'll open up another one from Bridge. Let's assume we're working on a project. I'll open up a different image into Adobe Camera Raw and I'll do just a little bit of work on it. Now with the instant changes you've just seen appear on that image, let's assume it's complete and I can click Save Image. And of course if it wasn't already there, there's our preset. That's going to stay there until I select something different, but of course if I had a different preset then I can select it from the drop down box. But here all I need to do, knowing exactly what's going to happen with this, is to click Save, and you'll notice that it's picking up the file numbering here and automatically making this number 2. Now what I've done is to close the previous glass image down and open up another and do my work on it, and now I want to save that too. Now when we did the mouse over earlier on, we read that we can convert and save the image, but the last part says if we alt click we can skip the save options dialog. Well, if we were working on a project here, and these are all the same images of course, if I just touch the alt key and click save, that's it, we're done. So if I cancel this, what we can do now is look into Windows Explorer and we'll take a look at the location, because to start off with we need to have some reassurance that we've got happening what we actually plan to happen. We should have 3 images in that folder. So with Windows Explorer open, there's my finished raw images folder which I'll open, and my 2018 which I'll open, and there's the 3 images that we saved. I can go back to the first of those and I can double click even from here, and as you can see it's opened up directly into Camera Raw, and if I wanted to I can continue the raw editing from here. Very, very convenient. Now as you can see with the change of the picture I am ready to save another, but we're going to look at some of those other options that were greyed out. Let's assume that this particular image that's been cropped to 16:9 is destined for a slideshow, and perhaps we need this saved as a JPEG. So I'm going to go to my Save Image option. I'm going to go up here and create a new preset. So here you can see I made one down here, JPEG option. I'm going to work with that one. I'm going to save into a new location, so I need to select the folder. Photography is the folder. There's the folder I want to put it in. I've got a capital G there and I'm not entirely sure why. I just need to highlight the folder and then select, so now I know exactly where they're going to be saved. I'm not going to change anything here, we'll stay with that, but down here I will change it to JPEG. Metadata, yes, I'm going to save all the metadata, but we get the opportunity to make changes there too. I'm going to save it at quality 6 because that's certainly enough for me for a slideshow, and I don't want to limit the file size, so I can move on to the color space. Now this can be quite useful because it could be argued that if we're going to make a slideshow, or we was preparing images even for a camera club competition, most of the time the color space we're going to require is sRGB, so I can even change that at the same time. The 8 bits per channel is fine. When I come down here for image sizing, I could actually resize the image downwards if there was a need to, but on this occasion I'll float over that and go to the output sharpening. I'm not going to do any sharpening because if I was going to do some I would have done it manually myself. So once again all I need to do here is click save, and not only have I got a different preset, but the image has just been saved as a JPEG. Well, there we have another image that's appeared on screen as if by magic, but we know because we're working on a project, that if we want to go directly to that JPEG option, then all I'd need to do is, once again, I could bypass the save option if I wanted to by just hitting the Alt key and clicking save. You can see it's just taking a few seconds to save it, but if we go into Windows Explorer now, I'm sure we're going to find two JPEGs in the appropriate folder. So here we are in Windows Explorer. There's the folder we linked to just a few moments ago, and within that we've got the two JPEG images. Now you'll notice that when I set up the second preset, I didn't take quite enough care, and I've left the numbering and it's consecutive from the previous raw files. So if you remember, we saved the first three in the finished raw images here, so they're labeled 1, 2 and 3, but in the JPEGs we're labeled 4 and 5. But of course we can easily go back in and we can adjust that preset to start the numbering from 1 if that was what we require. Now with the spinning round of the screen here, I've opened up Photoshop's bridge and located the JPEG folder we saved those last two images in, and there we can see them and be reassured that in fact they have been saved as JPEGs. And if I go to my finished raw images here, 2018, there again we can see that they are in fact digital negatives. These will open up directly into Camera Raw and we can carry on working on them in the raw format. These, if we double click from here, would open up directly into Photoshop. If you find yourself interested in the images I was showing throughout this video, they're very easy to create. The light source and the colors come solely from a standard flat screen monitor. Now if you want to learn more about this and see some video tutorials too, if you come to my website at www.beckhamdigital.com.au, go to the More options and PDF articles. Right at the top you've got sand, soda and limestone, which is glass. And if I scroll down, you can read all about it, how they were all created. When you get to the bottom of the article, there's a number of links. The first one is to a slideshow presentation which shows a number of these images. But here you've got a video collection including many ready-to-use backgrounds and also the videos. So if you click that, it'll pop up and you can download it directly to a location on your PC. I hope this video has helped explain the Save Image option from Adobe Camera Raw, because it's a very practical and useful option to know. Now this video may very well find its way onto YouTube, so if that's where you're viewing it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I post new videos. This particular video is just one in a set of videos on shooting and manipulating raw images. To find the rest of those videos, come along to my website at www.beckhamdigital.com.au, go to our Photoshop CC tutorials section and then individual subjects. But I'll put a link below in the Show More option. Perhaps I can also encourage you to come along and take a look at our photo and audio visual forum. It's free to join, very painless to sign up, and guaranteed to help.